hit record. And Debbie, it's yours.
Thank you, Julia. As she just said, Julia asked me to explain what is a parliamentarian. A parliamentarian is a person who is familiar with Robert's Rules of Order, which is the Bible for our parliamentary procedure, and also familiar with the bylaws or standing rules of the organization for which he or she is acting. The job of the parliamentarian is to assist the chair to make sure that motions are seconded, that motions on the floor are disposed of before allowing a new motion, answering parliamentary questions from the members. Those are the basics. Now, the chair of the meeting is the referee, the person who makes sure everyone has a chance to participate, keeps things moving, does not vote except to break a tie, and must vacate the chair if wanting to speak to a motion. So those are kind of the two roles, the parliamentarian and the chair of the meeting. This workshop will cover the basics of chairing a formal meeting for a board of directors. Most of our meetings, except at the district level, are fairly informal, although division meetings can be formal. Pre-planning is the first thing. Semper paratus, that's our, that just applies to everything that goes into doing a meeting. You've got to be prepared. The first thing you need to do is create your agenda. And who would you involve in planning your agenda? If anyone wants to unmic and speak to the question of who should be involved in creating an agenda for a district or division meeting.
Probably your vice chair.
I would definitely do that. Anybody else?
Media past.
Good suggestion. Also, you would want to, if you're wanting people to give reports at your meeting, they may not have to be involved in planning the agenda, but you need to let them know that they are expected to participate. And then once the agenda is set, you need to send it out to all of your voting members. And each level of the auxiliary has different voting members. Of course, at district, it's the division commanders and the executive committee and the DCAPs, and I'm sure I've missed somebody, but anyway. But you need as the chair of the meeting to know who your voting members are and see that they all receive the preliminary documents that are prepared for the meeting, such as the agenda, the minutes of the last meeting. If you're voting on a budget or something, anything that's going to be voted on, they need to have that information. Once your agenda is complete, distribute it to voting members and the people who will be speaking. Another thing, if it's a big meeting that is maybe going to last 2 or 3 days, a script is really helpful, which a script is writing down everything you plan to say. And you may not say it once you got it written down when you get to the meeting, but that way you won't forget everything. And scripts can, be, I mean, when I did scripts for the League of Women Voters, they were like 13 pages long. But again, that way nothing got forgotten, everything. Like if you were introducing somebody and couldn't remember the name, if you have your script, it'll be written in there. So it's a very helpful thing to do when you're chairing a really large kind of meeting. So we got our agenda, we got our script, we're going to call to order. Start your meeting on time. People hate not having the meeting start on time. And of course, with the auxiliary, we always start with the pledge. Then you're going to introduce your guests. And then we have a roll call of the voting members. That's important because you've got to know if you have a quorum. If you don't have a quorum, you cannot legally conduct business. And everybody's quorum should be in their standing rules or their appendix. Mostly it's in the standing rules. And it's usually, almost always you're going to have a quorum, but you need to establish it so that it can be put in the minutes that you had a quorum. Then you've put this agenda together, you've mailed it out to people. You need to have your voting members adopt the agenda. That way, everybody on your board has said, yeah, this is what we want to do at this meeting. The other thing that I would suggest is that you would have meeting rules. Now, what rules do is if you're having debate or discussion on agenda items, the rules cover the number of times a person can speak, the amount of time, the length of time, and if you're doing a debate, that you will have pro and con speakers alternately, and how much time has been allotted on the agenda for the topic to be debated. Now, you can set, Robert's Rules has suggested times, but you can set your own times for what works for your organization. And it's like you're going to give maybe 10 minutes for debate on a certain topic. Each person has 1 minute.
Down the excavation.
And so there's, I mean, those are just suggestions. But if you do have rules, you should have them in writing. Then they should be, the people who are voting need to have copies of the rules, and you should accept the rules right after you accept the agenda. Speaking of rules, the Robert's Rules of Order continually updates itself. Because of COVID, they had to add a section, excuse me, on electronic voting, because in order for it to be legal, your bylaws or your standing rules have to have something that says it's legal for you to do electronic voting, because there wasn't in anybody's rules before COVID, because we all met in person, and we didn't even have the internet. So it's new, but it needs to be part of your rules so that you're acting legally. So anyway, this new rule that Roberts proposes, or that they've have, is about accepting and approving the minutes. And this can make your meeting go quicker, because the minutes have to be approved. The only way you work with the minutes is you amend them. You either add something or correct or add to the minutes. So now, according to Robert's Rules of Order, The chair present the minutes, which everybody does it differently. When it's like the auxiliary, we send them out. And so then you look at that, and then the chair asks if there's any additions or corrections to the minutes. Hearing none, the minutes are approved as mailed. Or if there are additions and corrections, the chair waits until everyone who has an addition or correction has made it, and then the minutes are approved as corrected. And you do not need to take a vote. You may still take a vote if you want to, but it isn't really necessary. So we've gotten all through down to the minutes. The remainder of the agenda is going to cover your reports from your Commodore or your commander or your chief of staff or your vice commander, your division commanders, flotilla commanders, and then the chief of staff will take over your staff reports. That's the next part of your agenda. And then comes old business, new business, next meeting. So that's basically going really quickly through the kind of agenda that you would have to run a division or a district meeting. Now, you're going to put people's names of who's doing what. Again, I think this is all things that most people know, or if you don't, you can look at agendas, and that's the wonderful thing about the auxiliary. There's so many people out there that have done everything, and they can help you, and they're very willing to help you do things. So, as usual, there are corrections to the handouts that Julia sent to you. So she's got that procedure for motions on the board, on the screen here. If you go down to lay on the table. Let's see. Okay, number 3. Lay on the table is the incorrect title for that motion. That should be postpone definitely. Postpone definitely. And which means you want to postpone it till a later time. It's not tabled at all. It's postpone definitely. Just take or table out of there. Then the time must be specified. And it does not, it only requires a 2/3 majority when it's a special thing. So mainly it's just a majority. So they take that 2/3 out of there. There's only one example when it has to be 2/3. So it's postpone definitely, and it only requires a majority to pass. So that's the correction on that sheet. And but I will explain. Lay on the table is a possibility, but it's a very much misused motion. Lay on the table means it enables the assembly to set aside a pending motion temporarily when something else needs to be addressed. There is no set time for taking up the matter again, but it may be resumed at the will of the majority and in preference to any new motion. But lay on the table is not debatable. Well, I guess I should, on the postpone definitely, The only thing that can be debated is the reason for postponing. You can't debate the main motion with postpone definitely. Postpone indefinitely, then you can debate the motion and the reason for postponing indefinitely. But laying on the table here's an example. The chairman would say to the members of the meeting, I have just been informed that the kitchen will be closing in an hour. May I have a motion to lay the current motion on the table so that we will have time to look at the menu and put in our orders before the kitchen closes. So this was something that came up that wasn't planned, and they didn't have any more time to discuss this motion, or these folks weren't going to get to eat. So that's the kind of thing that you use lay on the table for. Lay on the table is to take care of an unforeseen event that makes it imperative to do something else. And it's not debatable. Once you've moved to lay on the table, you vote on it right away. Then calling, this other one on here is calling the question to close debate should only be used when debaters drag on too long and are not making any new points, because it does require a 2/3 vote. That's so. Okay. Let's go on to tips on parliamentary procedure. That was the other handout. Okay. The first 2 pages of this tips on parliamentary procedure are all subsidiary motions, which means somebody makes a motion and somebody wants to change it. All of these subsidiary motions require a second before they can be acted on. So to amend the main motion, it's debatable. It needs a second, it's debatable, and it needs a majority vote. And if it's accepted, then the main motion is amended. So you'll have different words, same motion, but some different words in it. Yeah, to postpone, definitely again. Okay, to refer, is that what's the next? Okay, well, refer is you want to refer it to committee. That's debatable. Here we go. To postpone, definitely. Cross off, lay on the table. Again, these 2 motions are often confused. It's debatable, and the lay on the table is not debatable, and a majority vote is required. So but the only thing you can debate on postpone definitely is the reason for the postponement. And that one, you have to specify a time, a definite time to which you want to postpone it to. Okay. Okay, next we're getting to extend or limit debate. That's if you have a set time and you think you need more time than's been allocated by the agenda. To close debate. Closed debate is not debatable, and it requires a 2/3 majority. And closing debate is moving the previous question. If you look this up in Robert's Rules of Order, it's going to be under P for previous question. As soon as this motion is made and seconded, debate ceases and a vote on closing debate is taken. If the motion carries, a vote is immediately taken on the question under consideration. So that's why Robert says it's a 2/3 majority, because you're not allowing anyone to say anything more on this particular topic. And so that's why closing debate requires a 2/3 majority. To keep from having to take the 2/3 vote and calling the question, if it seems to you as chair that everyone's pretty much said what they want to say, you can just go ahead and repeat the motion and say, go and take the vote, because that way you save yourself having to get a 2/3 majority to close the question. I think we've already covered to lay on the table, and it's not debatable, the majority vote. The miscellaneous motions, they're the motions that are, they're not related to the main motion. Question of privilege, that's just if there's something like you can't see the screen or you can't hear, anything that's the comfort of the person, that's a question of privilege. That has precedence over everything, which means if somebody's trying to make a motion, you can say, wait, I have a question of privilege. A parliamentary inquiry is for the parliamentarian to see if something is in order. So that comes after question of privilege. A point of information, that would be, you need to know something like how many divisions are present, or I didn't hear that we'd established a quorum, something that you think you didn't get. And point of order, the motion to reconsider, point of order is if you think something has been done that is not correct, and the parliamentarian missed it. So that's, again, that those motions have precedence over other motions. If someone's making a motion on the floor, you can still call for a point of order and say what you think is wrong. Yes. Did somebody have a question?
I sneezed.
Oh,
That was a
all right.
sneeze.
So, to help understand these points, here's a brief scenario that I put together. You are in the new business part of your meeting. After a year of no publications, a new PB has accepted the job. So one of your voting members makes the main motion. I move to name the publication Roadways of the 8th. And then the chair will say, is there a second? And it has to be a voting member. I second. The chair, the motion has been moved and seconded to name the new publication Roadways of the 8th. Is there any discussion? Discussion possibilities. Voting member. I would like to add an amendment to the motion. I want to move to amend the name to River Roadways, and the word river to River Roadways of the 8th. And then chair says, is there a second? If so, and then if there's a second, then that amendment must be discussed and voted on before you go back to the main motion. Okay, so say that motion passes, then the main motion will now read, the new publication will be River Roadways of the 8th. Then someone else says, well, they want to offer a substitute for the main motion, which I want to make a substitute motion and name it the Mighty Mississippi. You can see how that's different from amending it. You're trying to change the whole thing, okay? So you have to go through, is there a second? And discussion. So we'll say that motion fails. Now, If a substitute motion passes, it totally replaces, the original motion is gone, and only the substitute motion can be voted on. And refer name suggestions to a committee. That could be in order. Again, is there a second? Is there discussion? And then all in favor of referring it to a committee or just trying to get it out of the way tonight? And then postpone definitely. We don't want to vote on it right now. We want more time to think about it. Postpone it till our next meeting or just a definite time to postpone. And again, that has to have a second, and there can be discussion and, and a vote. After discussion and amendments, the final motion to name the publication River Roadways of the 8th is voted on and passes. Then Arnie raises his hand and he moves to rename the publication River 8. The chair rules that motion is out of order. The topic has already been decided. Then Bob moves to form a committee to rename the publication. Chair rule, that motion is also out of order. This item has been debated, discussed, and voted on. You can't come at it from different ways to try to change something that's already been decided. Once all business is concluded, you as chair call for a motion to adjourn. So that's the main points that I have prepared to speak about, and I'm open for any questions that you have or issues that you would like to talk about on any problems and how Robert's rules can help you solve your problems.
All right, thank you very much, Deborah. At this point, we'll start off with people unmuting themselves and speaking up. If we start getting too many people talking at one time, then we'll go with the good old fashioned raise your hands.
Hi, this is David Dietrich with 5 South, and I'd like you to talk about the special rules of order, which we utilize.
Which rules are specifically are you talking about?
Well, no, but in Robert's rules, you can have special rules of order for an organization, or in this it would be a division, say, as opposed Division 5 might do it a little different than Division 7 or Division 8.
Well, are you talking about your addendum to the standing rules?
No, I'm talking about a special rule of order whereby like when we have our board meeting, you have the division commanders, and sometimes they pontificate quite a bit. So a special rule of order would be we're limiting all division commanders to speak for 5 minutes.
Well, that's what I said.
Yeah.
You have your rules that you set up at the beginning of the meeting. And if that's a rule that you want, that everybody has only 5 minutes, that would be something that you would vote on and adopt at the beginning of the meeting.
Roger that.
And yes, I have had to do that. I've had people that want to talk forever. So I just had to make a general rule for everybody that you only have 3 minutes to do your report. And again, but that's, you can make any kind of rules that you want, but you just have to have your voting members buy into those rules and agree that that's what they want.
Right. I guess I didn't hear you do that, Deborah, in the beginning.
Well, it was at the very beginning. I may have talked too quickly. I'm sorry, but no, that's a recommendation. Is that at the you've done your agenda, you want your agenda to be accepted, and then you need to set up the rules that you want for how long people should talk. And like we have a rule that no one may speak on on a one issue until everybody who wants to speak has spoken, that you can only speak once to an issue. I mean, then there that you can, and then the amount of time that the person can have to speak. And again, you can just like when I was division commander and I had guests, I would say, we really want to hear from you, but you've only got 5 minutes.
Right.
Because some of our, as you said, Commodores like to speak on and on. And but it's your prerogative as the chair of the meeting to have, work with your vice and your other members to set the rules that you want for the meeting. And then once they're accepted by the voting members, people have to abide by them. And if you're going to do timing, it's very helpful to have a timer, to have a little paddle or something that says stop when the time is up. That is another, those are all things that you can do to keep your meeting running effectively. And if you want a sample, or as I said, Robert's Rules does have guidelines for the rules of debate, but I would be happy to send anybody a sample of the kind of rules of debate that you can propose, and you can put in your own amounts of time and things like that.
So just kind of as a reminder, so that I can make sure that everyone here is on the same page, the standing rules template that national requires us to use from district, division, flotilla, requires that we utilize Robert's Rules of Order, which is one of the reasons why we are asking Deborah to speak here today. So if you are going to impose additional rules, like what Deborah was talking about, the special rules, then that needs to be done in accordance with Robert's Rules.
Well, and I can send out what's in Robert's Rules as their recommendations for doing that. I don't have it right in front of me because I didn't know people wanted to know that.
No, you're doing great, Deborah. I just want to make sure everyone was starting from that same premise that everything has to be done within that Robert's Rules.
Absolutely.
So Debbie Blackburn, I see that you're unmuted.
Yes, I have a question under, after you completed your meeting and you're at the end and the president says, is there anything else you would like to discuss? And if you have a question about the financials and you have a discussion about that, and then when the minutes come out, that discussion and that conversation, there was an error in the finances, the financial reports, and that was not reported in the minutes. And I was told because it wasn't a motion to discuss the financials, that it could not be reported in the minutes. Is that correct?
Your minutes report the action taken by your board, and your action is through motions being voted on and passed. Discussions are not included in the minutes unless it's, now you're saying that this was brought up, that there was a discrepancy in the financial report. Then basically, if it had been me, I would have moved to review the financial report to go up and find out, why this discrepancy was there. But if you don't make a motion, it won't be in the minutes. That is correct. But
so what if you made a motion to discuss the financial reports and it's not seconded? You can't discuss
you can discuss it, but again, it won't be in the minutes. A motion is not seconded. It dies for lack of a second. So if you want to make a motion and have things happen, you need to get your buddy to second your motion for you. That's again, that's your pre-planning. If you need to want to make a motion, you want to definitely discuss something, then you need to get another voting member to second it for you. I mean, that's just, again, pre-planning. I'm
Thank you.
sorry if that didn't answer your question, but basically, the only thing that's supposed to go in the minutes is motions and their disposition.
All right, Angie,
Okay,
I've
thank
seen that you've unmuted a couple times.
In Robert's rules, for your agenda, and I don't know that we always use it, but there a place for like an open forum or things that maybe aren't necessarily agenda items, but like someone would come in. Where do you place that in your agenda, and what is it really for?
Well, the flotilla I belong to has an open forum at the end of the meeting for people to just express anything they want to talk about that they feel is important. You can always have an open forum at the end of your meeting. There's nothing illegal in that.
What why would you place there and say not at the beginning, whereas if you have guests that are not voting members that maybe don't want to be there the whole time, you could do their open forum for whatever they're bringing to the meeting, and then could they leave?
Well, you're talking about a different situation. If you have a guest speaker or someone who's just come to present something, you try to fit them in when they are at the meeting. If they can come at the beginning or the middle or the end, you fit them in whenever. If someone's coming to present something to your group, that the open forum is just for the members who are wanting to say, hey, you guys are all talking too low, speak up. I mean, but if you're having a guest or someone that you want them to participate in the meeting, then you try to accommodate the guest, but you need to let the whoever's chairing your meeting know and make provisions. Again, that's planning ahead. You're pre-planning. You need to pre-plan for things like that.
Maybe would they use it for a special announcement, like there's, a certain event that's coming up this weekend, hope all the members are able to attend, open.
Well, now announcements you usually do at the beginning of your meeting, any announcements of that sort. That's what the open forum is, just for people to get a gripe off their brain or whatever, or congratulate somebody for what they did. It's just, but no, announcements come at the beginning of the meeting, and mostly any announcements that are pertain to the membership, like a special event or something.
All right. Fred, I saw that you were unmuted there for a while.
Nah, I just came in late and I forgot to mute.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. I have a question here in the chat box. What is procedures to elect flotilla officers via virtual since our country is now under COVID lockdown? So I know that this is something that's going to vary a lot from district to district. In my district, we are back to in-person meetings. However, and I think there's a couple of Commodores in the room that would be a little bit more knowledgeable on this than I am, but there are electronic meeting plans and voting procedures out there. Can anyone speak to that? Deborah, do you know?
Oh, I know. I need to know because I'm on the committee. But no, those voting procedures are the priority of the Commodore. He's like a district. he and the chief of staff are the ones that set up, say if the meeting's going to be hybrid, that there's going to be they'll allow electronic voting. I don't know. I'll have to, as election committee, they'll have to tell us because we're going to have to count the ballots. But again, that's not our prerogative. That's the prerogative of the leadership as to how the electronic voting will work. And then, of course, they're governed by DROCs and
Right. So I will do some more research on this question and make sure that the person who asked that to me in chat gets an answer, because I know that's going to be highly dependent on a lot of
oh
things.
yeah, I've been wondering the same thing, but again, it's not my place to, they won't even know till right before the meeting how serious COVID is in Kansas City, and if they're going to have to, have in person or have a hybrid meeting or what they're doing. So that's their decision, and the Coast Guard has set up the electronic voting, so I'm sure they'll do it similar to the way they've done it in the past if they're going to have it. But I haven't heard if they're having it or not.
So
I don't know if that's helpful or not.
yeah. Well, and this is a national audience. I don't believe that the person who's asking that is from our district. So hopefully we'll be able to help get her connected to the right people.
Well, yeah, she needs to talk to who, I don't know who set up our electronic voting, but maybe Steve Riddell. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the techie people are the ones who know how to do that. I don't.
Yep. So, all right. What other questions do we have on Robert's rules and running efficient meetings?
Does anybody have problem people that they just don't know how to deal with, that maybe Roberts could help with any issues like that?
Debbie Blackburn here. If you have a 5-person board, you're the new person on the board. The other people outvote you on everything 4-1. And just like the error in finances, because I did not know that it needed to be made by motion, the error in the finances just did not get handled. And I just can't see that as being right.
Okay, that is definitely a problem. Basically, you do not have a good chair of your meeting, that your voice is not heard. And if there was a discrepancy in the finances, that is, as you said, a very serious problem. And it should have been discussed. And you can tell, that they are fiscally responsible. They can be sued if there is something that's not right and illegal. I mean, you have the right to say, look, we've got to have this correct, or we are liable for not dealing with this fiscal problem. Again, you can go back and say, look, I brought this up at this meeting. It wasn't discussed. I'm bringing it up again because I don't want to be sued.
Thank you.
I mean, does that help at all?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, if there are no further questions, thank you, Debbie, for putting this together for us. We appreciate your time and all of your knowledge.
I have
Well-
one.
Oh, okay.
Vern's going to speak up.
If you have something like that that you want on the agenda for the meeting, can you not have it put on added to the agenda prior to the meeting?
Yes, you can. Again, that's why the agenda should be sent out to all the voting members so that they have a chance. If they need to add something, they can call and say, I need this added to the agenda.
Or if one wasn't sent, then you could do it at the beginning of the meeting or something, or?
Well, see, that's when you have your approval of the agenda.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I would like this added, or I would like this moved to a different spot in the agenda. You can amend the agenda. That's why you have your vote to say, accept the agenda, because people can say, nope, I gotta have something added, or I don't like the order. I want to talk about this before we talk about that. You have that right. Mhm.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So with that, I will stop the recording and thank